Semifinal matchup, Canada USA. Guys, this had absolutely everything. This had Waterworks, Water World. I made a Kevin Costner reference, Gareth. I felt like you were the only one who really would have understood me on the
I would have
broadcast.
loved it. Yep. Yep.
Nobody really got my Kevin Costner Waterworld reference. We had penalty kicks, we had PKs, we had drama, we had bad pass backs. I mean, you name it, we really had it. So it lived up to the billing of a great matchup between Canada USA, but the Americans coming out on top. They will face Brazil in the Gold Cup final, the inaugural Gold Cup final on March 10th. Ollie, you're still out in San Diego. You were pitch side for this one. The biggest question, of course, and we all heard the Kaylin shared interview that you did post game. She was visibly upset that the fact that the game even happened, mentioning quite a few times lots of things out of our control, while at the same time kind of biting her tongue. But let's just say it. Let's call a spade a spade. Should that game have been played last night?
No, I don't think so. And like I think as much as it turned out to be, an incredibly exciting and dramatic ending, I don't think that justifies the way we got there in the game that was played. In those conditions, it just wasn't a playable pitch. And I think in a lot of different parts of the world, it would never have been considered a playable pitch from the start of this game. You could see from kickoff, puddles forming on the pitch. I don't know if they did any kind of test of how the ball would run pre-game, but as soon as the game started, passes were dragging. It was impossible to play. Bev Priestman, you could basically see, was telling her players moments into the game, you just cannot pass the ball backwards. Everything has to go forwards. Unfortunately, maybe there's a little bit of muscle memory on that Vanessa Gilles back pass where she's just kind of used to playing that ball right back to her goalkeeper. Doesn't think that in that situation it's obviously not going to roll the way she wants, and Canada concedes a goal. But
Ollie, can we go back to that one? We just saw the referee though, right? Because we know CONCACAF did put out a statement, and I would love to show that referee once again, because they did say it was in the referee's hands, but the referee kind of looked like she was also consulting with someone else. And that was early on in the game.
Yeah, it wasn't entirely clear what was going on there. The referee went over to the sideline with the ball in her hands, appeared to be indicating like this ball is not moving properly on the pitch. There's some people who have said that generally the match commissioner would come into that decision as well. I would kind of think, and this is just me speculating, but I would think the referee does have the ability to stop the game, and maybe it's more the match commissioner who decides whether to postpone it or just delay it, play it tomorrow, whatever needs to be done after that. But yeah, this was a weird moment where you can see here, she seems to be going over and saying like the ball's not moving properly, we can't play. And then nothing happens and we carried on the game as it was. One thing that didn't make a lot of sense to me was that it was forecast to ease up the rain, and it did. So I don't know if they were going to insist on playing it that night, why not delay 30 minutes to an hour, clear the pitch as best you can, wait for the rain to stop, and then start playing a bit later. But yeah, it was disappointing for me to see a semi-final decided that way.
What did you make of it, Jordan?
Postponing the match an hour was the solution. I mean, it's different. We probably all played in matches where it's downpouring, but you've started a match. There's a bit of a difference, right? If you start a match and there's a little bit of rain and it's still sexy, you can make passes, and then starts to downpour, that's maybe a decision for the referee. Ooh, do you stop the match right there and postpone it? Do people go inside? But at the start of the match, I asked Ollie. Ollie was there. You see the rain coming down, 15 minutes, then players go out. As soon as they stepped onto the pitch, Wild Water Kingdom. What's the movie you reference? Any type of wet joke you want to use. For me, I would need the whatever it is on the arms to go out and swim. That's how dangerous
Your little floaties?
My little floaties. Thank you, Chills. My little floaties, I need that. A little Speedo, goggles, all of that. For sure. That's the time for the referee. For me, old school. Referees are in charge of everything within the pitch. That means coaches, people on the bench, they need to behave, but also what happens on the pitch. That's the time to say, you know what? Hey, let's postpone this match. I don't know about the rules, but I definitely know referees are the ones to say, you know what? This is not playable. We should postpone this. So I think Kaylin Sheridan has a great point to say that in the beginning. But I think going further, once the match is being played, once it's already going in, once the second half was actually okay, it wasn't horrible conditions. I think at that point, there was a bigger topic. I don't think you could really look at the weather there because it was the same for both teams. So that's where I sit on it. I guess this is one of the times I actually sit on the fence because I think you can't complain once a match has started. You have to go and really just go about your business.
Wheels.
Well, first of all, that Albert Hammond is full of crap. It never rains in Southern California. Come on. Girl, I warn ya. Menopause. Anyways, I'll leave that alone for now. Great tune. The responsibility comes down to one individual and one individual only. Anyone who's ever played the game knows who's in charge here. It's the match official. It's the referee. It's up for her. Even if once a game starts, like it's up to them to say, well, look, clearly by evidence of the ball not being able to roll or whatever you want to call it, they're the ones that are in charge of the proceedings going forward. So it was up to that match official to make a decision. Her decision was that they would play. Now, there's precedence, obviously, for teams playing in less than desirable conditions. We saw Canada play Honduras in CONCACAF Nations League not so far back, where the ball had a difficult time moving. We've seen, Euro qualifying in 2012, Ukraine, France. The game was postponed or the players did come off the field after about 10 minutes, and they came back on, and the ball struggled to move around the pitch as well. We saw a snow game last weekend in Major League Soccer where one of the managers, Steve Cherundolo of LAFC, was fined for calling it ridiculous afterwards. For me, playing in snow in those conditions is a little bit more dangerous. But as a spectacle, watching that in the first half, you're absolutely right if you want to gripe that it ruined the game, because it did. Like, those are not playable conditions. I know that Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego have had complaints in the past about the state of their field. How even after it stopped raining, like the sides of the field were fine, how there's no drainage in the middle of the field is beyond me. This is something that CONCACAF should investigate going forward, whether or not that field is fit for purpose to play. That's where the San Diego NWSL teams plays as well. So I would consider that a bigger issue going forward. Why was the state of that field in that condition when it rained? It was ridiculous to me. So referee was the first culprit and the main culprit here. If anyone wants to point fingers anywhere else, well, I just think you're mistaken.
And I think that's why you also see, to your point, the inconsistency of why do some games go ahead and some don't, because if it's left up to the match official, and you're right, just 2 years ago, we saw the Canadian men also playing in a slip and slide type of condition. And then we also saw recently their game against Jamaica as well get postponed till the next day. So you just don't know when they decide to play, when they delay a couple hours, or when they play the very next day, up to the match official. I do want to, though, you look at that game, it's really hard because, Jordan, we were trying to say, this is going to be a measuring stick against the United States. It was really tough in that first half to see where the Canadians possibly measured up to this American side. But when you do look at the game in those halves, would you say, like, how did the Canadians look in the first half versus the second half, and being able to get it to PKs? Just where's your feeling on the Canadians and being able to match up against the Americans?
I mean, I can't remember the last time the Canadians came back twice in a game against a team that's better than them to score 2 goals. Granted, were they the sexiest goals ever? No. But the first one, I think, was well worked to get everyone involved and to have that quality cross and that connection that we'll see a lot more from Lawrence to Heidemann, but just that quality cross in the box. Then that was great. But then also, this is as Hail Mary as you get from Jade Rose for the second goal, and for Gilles to put her body and her head, felt the thump on the line for your team and for your country, and then to have the stone cold finish of Adrian Leon to make it 2-2. So there's a lot in that match. I think also too, Fleming, that was a captain performance for me. This is probably one of the most technical players, definitely the most technical player for Canada, but one of the most technical players on the pitch. I thought she found the right times to be a bit more pragmatic, a bit more direct, but then also still have her flair and dictate the game, even though it was a scoopy, puddly type of match that wasn't conducive to a player that plays that way. There's a few positives to take from there. And what I said yesterday on our post game, Andy, even though it was near 2 a.m., I meant it. I wasn't delirious. I said that they're close because there was some grit and grind within this team. I could see players looking at each other, like clapping, like, hey, let's do this. And you're playing against the Americans. A lot of teams that you might have that inferiority like complex. You might look at them and be like, they're too good. Let's just pack it in. But Canada were going for it. I think the details where they went wrong, those minor details, specifically the pass back or two players going for the same ball and not really falling into position, those things need to get cleaned up. But if they have this attitude moving forward, I think those mistakes will be nullified soon enough.
In that first half, Ollie, it did feel like the Americans probably figured the game out a little bit better. I mean, obviously, Vanessa Gilles passing back to Kaylin Sheridan in those conditions where the ball just dies. I mean, that's a big no-no. And then Vanessa Gilles, I mean, talk about a roller coaster game for her, because, yes, she is the one, obviously, who draws that penalty that allows Canada to tie it up and send it to PKs. But how are you feeling after that? Obviously, Jordan, you're sounding like you're feeling a little bit more positive. How are you feeling, Ollie?
Well, I mean, I draw zero actual football conclusions from that game because I take from it in that respect. But what I would say is that the big positive for me was that Canada just didn't back down, right? Didn't make excuses, didn't kind of give the game up. And to come from behind twice against the US in the US is no small feat. So this is a team that's lost a lot of experienced players in recent months. A lot of leadership, a lot of caps have gone out of this team. And to just see that there was still leadership there was still resilience there that we've come to associate with this team. There was still a willingness to really be up for the fight, you know, whatever it took in those circumstances, and try to make something of this game. For me, that was the biggest positive of the night. And there was, you know, Jordan pointed some of them out. Jessie Fleming as captain, excellent. Jade Rose had an outstanding game. You know, some of the young players in particular, I think, really stepped up on the night and did everything they could in those circumstances to get to penalties and to give themselves a chance in impossible conditions.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling, Wheels?
Good. Yeah, you know, from a footballing perspective, I understand what Ollie's saying there, but things like mentality, determination, focus, all these things are essential to be playing the game at the highest level. And let's be honest, last year at the World Cup, they looked weak, they looked feeble, they looked distracted. They didn't look committed at times. Like, you can't get played off the pitch and lose 4-0 in a World Cup game and come out of there thinking, yeah, we're moving in the right direction. That just simply wasn't the case. Players have moved on, and what I saw in this Canada team was some real resolve, some fight, some bite back. Leadership from Jessie Fleming. She looks so suited for the role. I just love her as a player, everything that she brings to the table. And Adriana Leon, I mean, this is the player who's changed club teams more than I change my shirt on a weekly basis, but continues to be an invaluable player for the national team. Like, you can't take her out. That first goal by Canada and Leon being able to hold up the play and show a little bit of patience there, like, these are things that you need: the right mentality, the right desire, the right focus. And I think that there have been more cases than not. These younger players have shown that they are fit to carry the torch and try to take this new look team to a different place. So out with the old and in with the new. Like, it was about time with this team. And I think that they're moving in the right direction to get it right.
Yeah, looking really good. Adriana Leon, obviously, in that second game, getting the hat trick, scoring 5 goals before heading into the knockout, was obviously the hero with that PK. I think the young Olivia Smith has really made things perhaps a little bit difficult for Bev Priestman when having to pick her Olympic roster now. Gets her first start, gets her first goal for country, seems to be an option, whether you do want to start her or bring her off the bench. So there were definitely a lot of positives there for the Canadians. But once again, right, that hump is going to be the Americans, which they will have a chance to face them again. The She Believes Cup will be the next tournament for Canada, April 6th and April 9th. We will have that right here on One Soccer as they continue their quest in preparation for the Paris Olympics. No rain, please. So. And thank you.
Here comes the rain again.
If they want to rain down with some goals, we are A-okay with that. Mother Nature, please just decide to take the day off on that one. Let's turn our attention quickly to the Canadian men's national team, gentlemen, because it was announced today that they do have a friendly on June 6th against Netherlands. Pretty high-ranked team, ranked 6th currently in FIFA World Rankings. We don't know when they play that game if it'll be a nice little preparation for Copa America, because, of course, they have to play March 23rd against Trinidad and Tobago, or if it'll just end up being a game, because they won't be in Copa America. But we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about them being in it. Either way, great matchup. What do you make of this being added to their schedule? Ollie, I'll ask you first about, because Canada's always been begging for these top ranked opponents, especially outside of CONCACAF. What does it mean to get the Dutch?
Yeah, well, a pleasant surprise. Like I was not expecting an opponent of this kind of tier in that window, and the Netherlands obviously will be preparing for the Euros. Their first game is against a mystery team that's coming through the playoffs, so maybe Canada provides nice preparation for a mystery team because you never quite know what you're going to get with the Canadians. But yeah, it's an excellent test for Canada going into Copa America. Hopefully, going into Copa America. The interesting part as well now is to just see what they do with the potential second game in that window. Do they come back to Canada to maybe play a send-off game before the tournament again, if they've qualified? That'll be interesting to see too. But great start to get a team like this. It's not often that you get to see the Canadian men play against this caliber of opponent outside of a World Cup or a major tournament.
Wheels?
Yeah, bring on Virgil van Dijk, Xavi Simons, Frimpong, Ake. Like these are top players that they're playing against here. And I have a lot of Dutch friends across this country that have told me for years we need another Canada game against the Netherlands. Well, they get their wish, so I'm thrilled for all of them. To Ollie's point, it does provide flexibility on what they want to do for that second game. A send-off game does make a lot of sense. This game's being played on the 6th. They kick off their Copa America campaign, I believe, on the 20th. So there is time in between to come back over stateside. If they want to play another game against another tough European competitor, had a Euro as well, that's a decent warm-up as well. So they have some flexibility in terms of what they want their choices to be. But a game like this is preparation for Copa America. Really good one. I really like the profile of the Netherlands and how they play and some of the issues that they're going to have to maybe solve ahead of this one. And biggest question, will Canada have a new manager by that time? We'll see.
Yeah. Jordo?
Yeah, Canada will go into the Copa America not shell-shocked, right? I think that's the issue you have when you're in CONCACAF. Is you're playing teams that you should beat, but Canada's going in as underdogs, which they might go into a few games in Copa America for sure. So I think that will prepare them. You're playing the Netherlands, a rich history, great footballers. A lot of those players are playing top flight football. I know that we have a few for Canada, but that is just the best way to sharpen yourself right before a major tournament, and probably some of the biggest tournament outside the World Cup for a lot of these players.